Hello and welcome to the program UFO Warning. In this episode, we're talking about the Angelholm UFO incident of 1946. That's correct, the Angelholm UFO incident of 1946. Now, this happened in Sweden just a year after the end of World War II. And today, if you go there, they actually have a concrete statue of what this UFO looked like. Kind of neat. The Angelholm UFO incident, turns out it's one of Europe's most famous close encounter cases and is often compared to the later accounts of George Adamski and Antonia Villas-Boas. Now, if you've been in the UFO stuff much, you know Adamski is famous for taking these photos and claiming that he'd had all these contacts with aliens. According to Swedish businessman Gösta Carlsson, the event occurred on May 18th, 1946, in a wooded area known as Siberiaskogen, the Siberian forest near Ängelholm, Sweden. Unlike the famous ghost rocket wave that swept Scandinavia later that summer, Carlson's account involved an alleged landed craft and direct contact with humanoid beings. So here again we have these humanoid beings coming down. A lot of this stuff happening just after the end of World War II. Gösta Carlsson was a witness. He was 28 years old at the time. Before becoming wealthy, he worked as a salesman and enjoyed taking long evening walks along the coast near Ängelholm. Years later, Carlsson became famous in Sweden as the Pollen King after founding a successful natural health company selling pollen-based products. He later claimed his UFO encounter inspired both his philosophy of life and eventually his business success. According to Carlsson, he had been sitting on an old military observation bunker overlooking the shoreline at approximately 10 p.m. As darkness fell, he began walking home through the nearby forest. Suddenly, he noticed an unusually bright light filtering through the trees. There were no normal sounds of wildlife, but there was a strange humming vibration. Curious, he moved toward the clearing. Carlsson claimed he found a metallic object resting on the ground. He described it as approximately 50 to 60 feet in diameter, flattened disc, metallic silver gray, supported on 3 landing legs, silent except for a faint electrical hum, supported by a soft white light. He later commissioned a concrete model based on his description that still stands at that site today. Now, wouldn't that be neat? You see a UFO and you've got so much money you can go out there and put up a concrete model of what it looked like. Carlsson said he observed several humanoid figures around the craft, as he described them, roughly human in appearance, around 5.5 to 6 feet tall, wearing one-piece gray-green suits, having long blonde hair, calm and non-threatening, communicating partly through gestures and, according to later retellings, by telepathy. One individual repeatedly carried a rod-like instrument. Another appeared to examine nearby plants. Unlike many later UFO reports, Carlsson did not describe the beings as having oversized heads or large black eyes. Carlsson said one being accidentally dropped a ring before the craft departed. He later recovered it. He described it as gold-collared, set with a green stone, unlike ordinary jewelry. He claimed to possess it for many years. Investigators have never been able to verify an extraterrestrial origin for the ring. That would be some very cool UFO metamaterial to have in your possession right there, wouldn't it? After several minutes, Carlsson said the beings returned aboard, the landing legs retracted, the object rose vertically. It accelerated rapidly without a loud explosion or flame. He later claimed the craft disappeared almost instantly. Carlsson said the landing site contained several unusual features. He reported 3 circular depressions where the landing legs had rested. Some nearby plants reportedly appeared scorched or flattened. Perhaps the strangest claim involved a yellow powder covering the vegetation after the craft left. Carlsson believed it resembled flower pollen. He later became fascinated with pollen's nutritional and medicinal properties and eventually founded a highly successful pollen supplement company. Supporters have long viewed this as an unusual coincidence. Skeptics argue it became an important part of the mythology only after his business succeeded. If the business is already successful, I'm not even sure why you would need that story. I mean, what could it do for you? Interestingly, Carlsson did not immediately publicize the story. He reportedly told only close friends and family for years. The case became widely known in Sweden during the 1970s after newspaper interviews and books brought it to public attention. In 1972, Carlsson funded construction of the famous UFO monument at the alleged landing site. The monument includes a concrete model of the craft, 3 life-size landing leg circles, and informational plaques. It remains one of the few permanent UFO monuments in the world. You think about that, how strange that is. All the UFOs that have been seen by people over the years, and there really aren't that many statues, monuments, plaques, whatever. Later investigations. The case has been investigated repeatedly by Swedish UFO researchers, particularly Claes Svan of UFO Severage. Several observations have emerged. Carlsson remained consistent on many major points over decades. Some details changed between interviews. No independently verified physical evidence survived. The alleged ring has never been shown to provide public evidence of non-human manufacture. No photographs exist from 1946, and no independent witnesses confirm the landing itself. More recently, Svan has publicly argued that there are significant inconsistencies in Carlsson's evolving story, and that the evidence does not support treating it as a verified extraterrestrial encounter. Supporters point to several features. Carlsson did not seek publicity immediately after the event. He never attempted to build a religion or cult around the experience. He became independently wealthy through business rather than through UFO claims, and his description predates many well-known UFO contact cases of the 1950s. The monument location had remained public for decades. Skeptics argue that the story evolved over time. No physical evidence has survived scientific examination. No corroborating witnesses observed the alleged landing, and the pollen connection may have been incorporated after Carlsson's commercial success. Independent investigations have not verified the extraordinary claims. Well, I mean, he saw a UFO, that's all you can say. Whether interpreted as a genuine close encounter, misrepresentation, or personal myth, the Angelholm case remains one of the most famous UFO stories in Scandinavian history. The monument at the alleged landing sighting has become a tourist attraction and an enduring symbol of Sweden's UFO folklore, continuing to attract visitors and researchers nearly 80 years after the reported event. 80 years later, we're still talking about it. I found this article over at Xaluan. It's spelled Xaluan. I think it must be maybe Vietnamese. It's written by Summer Nguyen, Nguyen. Title says, Gösta Carlsson, the man who met aliens and got rich using their technology, witnessed by many. It's got a picture of him here. He's got these bees to make these different health additives that he created. For some reason, it says this incredible story is unknown outside Sweden, even when it is one of the most amazing stories in ufology. The eyewitness, Gösta Carlsson, did not only see the aliens, but with the help of their technology, he created his own business. Now, this is a little different than what we've heard before. UFO encounters are not something new, and it keeps happening around the world and in a variety of forms. This enigmatic incident took place late on the evening of May 18, 1946, when a 28-year-old hockey player and beekeeper, Gösta Carlsson, was walking through the Kragnästen forest in Sweden, returning from Skelderviken beach where he went to watch birds. Gösta Carlsson was walking through a dark, peaceful forest, listening to the chirping of crickets, when he suddenly noticed streaks of bright light nearby behind the trees as he climbed a small hill. This seemed very strange to him because generally no person was expected to be in those forests late in the evening. So he moved forward in that direction and soon went out into the clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a brightly lit disc-shaped object, which at first seemed to the Swedish man a carousel. It was difficult for him to recognize what exactly the disc-shaped object was. After all, he had never seen a UFO before, and back then even the term flying saucer was not invented, let alone the stories of strange flying objects being published in the media. Less than a year had passed since the end of the Second World War, and the only known flying machines were airplanes and airships and helicopters that were still under development. Years later, Gösta Carlsson described the object he saw to the Swedish ufologist Claes Svan. It was shaped like a disc and stood on 2 telescopic supports in the lower part, There was a lowering hatch with a ladder like on ships at a height of 1.5 meters. I saw the light coming from the cockpit and tried to look there, but the view was too narrow and I saw only light. At the top of the object was an oval cabin about 8 meters in diameter, so 25 feet, with oval windows and at 1 meter intervals about approximately 30 centimeters high. While I was looking at the structure, I thought that someone was trying to mess with me, but then I thought that maybe this facility was built by German pilots and they were trying to escape from the POW camp on it. But deep down, I believe there was something else. Yeah, your brain, I'm sure, would just be racing at that point. On top of the cockpit, there was something thick, like a periscope, 4 meters high, so 13, 14 feet. It had a bright purple light source that caught my attention. Light along a strange curved trajectory softly enveloped the entire object and pulsed slightly like a water fountain. The air smelled strongly of ozone. There were no joints or rivets visible anywhere on the hull. The cockpit and hull seemed to be created as a whole. Now, this is something that we hear over and over with these things, how they're just all one piece. They're just, people can't really see how they're put together. It's almost, it's like they're molded from one piece of metal. As per Gösta Carlsson, he stood there for a while and examined the disc-shaped object and then noticed a humanoid figure nearby. The stranger was dressed in a tight-fitted white suit with black boots and a belt, and a kind of camera was hanging around his neck. Then it suddenly turned out that next to this disc in the clearing, there were more humanoid figures of men and women. They all had blonde hair and looked like typical Swedish or Norwegians. Now, I wonder if these things weren't just trying to fit into the surroundings. I saw 3 men near the windows of the ship. They were busy with some work inside. Then 3 girls appeared in front of me, all equally dressed in one-piece white suits with the same boots and belts. Each of them had a transparent hood pulled back around their neck. It was strange to see how they all looked at me as if I were an uninvited guest. I felt like a wild animal in a circle of light, a technique used by safari hunters in Africa. Then a dark-haired girl came down the stairs from the ship. She had a bag in her hand, and then she began to distribute cups to all the men and women. They began to quit all work and began to drink from these cups. When I wanted to get closer to them, one of them, who seemed to be acting as a guard, blocked my path, raising his hand as a stop sign. Everyone around me was looking at me with serious faces. Then I stepped back and everyone went back to their work and no one was looking at me. I felt a little depressed. It's just almost like he's walked into their show. This makes me think so much these things are interdimensional. They just phased in here and he's just something kind of in the way to them. Then Gösta Carlsson decided that he had already spent enough time in the clearing and walked away from there. As he walked through the woods, he got the impression that he was hallucinating. He returned to the beach where he came from, sat for a while on the shore, then saw a bright red light from the side of the hill. At first, I thought it was the moon that had risen, but I realized that it was not. Slowly and majestically, the heavy object was rising up, and now I clearly saw that it was a flying ship. It made a sound like a vacuum cleaner motor. It is in a crown of red light and at an altitude of 400 to 500 meters, 1700 feet. It slowed down and began to sway. I noticed that its large periscope antenna had been removed and that the landing legs had been removed as well. It was foggy, but I could see everything well. Then the disc tilted. The red light became brighter and then began to pulsate, blink strongly, turning into the purple light. It repeated this sequence 3 times and then disappeared into the sky over Angelholm. I stayed in the dunes on the shore, shocked by what I saw. I guess shocked would be one way of putting it. After the mysterious evening he has had, Gösta Carlsson returns home, and as soon as dawn broke, he again went to the forest to the same clearing. He found heavily crushed and burnt grass with imprints from the supports and 2 more mugs from which the ship's crew drank in the same clearing. Now that's an interesting detail. There was still a fragrant yellowish liquid in them. He also found a gold ring and a transparent crystal rod engraved with symbols very similar to the Scandinavian runes. Interesting. It's got a picture of this gold ring here. I mean, it looks kind of like maybe something from the 1800s or something. I don't know. In subsequent years, he repeatedly showed these objects to other people, but did not allow anyone to examine them and never gave the objects away for any analysis. He also stated that he used to return to the clearing with a device measuring radiation, and there was a strong phono there. In the 1970s, a small monument kind of thing dedicated to the very UFO that he saw was erected on the Gösta Carlsson glade. This happened after he told his story to reporters in 1971, and it was published in Swedish newspapers. The monument still stands there even today. It depicts a disc on supports with a large antenna on top. Yeah, it's strange. Then it goes on, it says, but the story of Gösta Carlsson did not end there. It only became more curious. It's got some more pictures of him here. In the 1970s, Gösta Carlsson suddenly became the director of wealthy pharmaceutical companies Carnell and Allergan, and he himself claimed the medicines created in the companies were based on the alien healing drink that Carlsson found in the cups left by aliens. Okay. Gösta Carlsson and the tablets of his companies. Allegedly, these drugs slowed down aging, and therefore all of the aliens he saw looked very young. Gösta Carlsson also stated that the aliens have allegedly solved all their life problems and have turned their planet into paradise. Their average lifespan is 400 to 600 years. From where did he get this information? It is not known. Carlsson was in close contact with UFOologist Klaus Schwann, and in 1995, his book entitled The Meeting in the Glade was published. Although Carlsson and Schwann became close friends and communicated a lot, the ufologist could not help but notice that there are many incomprehensible moments in Carlsson's history, as if the eyewitnesses had deliberately hidden something or distorted it. Even when Gösta Carlsson was close with the ufologist Klaus Schwann, he never showed Schwann and his team his artifacts properly. He only showed them his artifacts briefly and did not let them have those artifacts in hands. He also did not allow Schwann to delve into his personal archive to look at the medical records and other details. When Carlsson grew old and settled in a nursing home, all of his archives and artifacts from his home were immediately transported to another home. In 2003, Carlsson died of a stroke and took all of his secrets with him to his grave. Interestingly, his documents along with the artifacts have not yet been found. That's weird. Well, apparently he didn't reach the 400 to 600 year lifespan that he was aspiring to. It's a neat story. The problem I have with it is, if you're not going to let somebody examine the artifacts that you've discovered, now he might say, well, look what happens anytime someone else does that. These things end up in a lab somewhere. You never see them again. But you've got this, it looks like a little quartzite box here, maybe with these rune figures inscribed on it. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're talking about when they say the stick. Kind of a strange story. I think it's fun, though, to go back and read some of these old ones and see how the stories were treated, how the people were treated, and how they stand the test of time. This one here, I really don't know. I kind of could see it from both sides. It is interesting, but I have a lot of questions about it. Anyway, I hope you liked the program today. If you did, don't forget to hit like, follow, subscribe. Doesn't cost a dime. This is UFO Warning. Over and out.